Hey guys, back today with another video. I wanted today's video to add on to yesterday's video on family vision that I did because I believe family vision is so critical. It really is the critical part of this because again, you're creating a destiny. You're creating where you want to go. Now, you don't want to put too much emphasis on it in terms of you got to have it exactly right. You know, the destination can morph as you get closer to the vision of God and closer to God as He's giving you more of the vision. But you got to get started somewhere. Okay. So, generally speaking, you've got to have a destiny of where you're going. In fact, that is where you're going. Now, you can get better at it, you can get higher and higher resolution of it, but it's a very, very critical piece. And so I guess I'm trying to do this video today to let you know this can be very easily done and very quickly. At the same time, it should be something that is evolving and transforming and unfolding as you are walking it out, because you do get to make adjustments to it. And so ultimately, you're wanting to bring God's vision of your life and of your family's lives and who you are collectively. You want Him to be delivering that. And see, that's supernatural. That is Him opening the eyes of your heart and helping you see things that He wants. And if you believe God's a loving God and He's got all this stuff worked out, then what He wants really is best, and you can trust Him in it. So it's really getting closer to the Lord. And so I wanted this to be an encouragement as to the things that I've done, and I'm going to share with you the things that I employed immediately, how my meeting went last night, and then maybe just build off, give you a next step type of a talk on family vision. Listen, guys, I am humbly walking through this myself, okay? I'm really doing these things, like some of this for the first time. It's actually working and happening, and and I'm just trying to share openly and honestly with things that are going on in my own life and in my own home as an encouragement and as a, hey, maybe try this way. So a statement I got here recently is this: we can only act within the world we can envision. Okay? We can only act within the world we can envision. Now, if that's true, what you are envisioning then becomes very, very critical. Here's some of the thoughts that I've had. And one of the things that I believe are true: you can't make hard decisions in the short to medium term when you don't have a long-term vision. And I believe this is true. And this gets back to this East versus West, Western approach to things. And all of us watching this, you're probably fully Western like I am. Born and raised in America, that means you are fully Western. Haven't had much touch with Eastern people. I've read some books here and there and listened to some things, this and that, from people that are really entrenched and raised up and understand Eastern culture. But I'm fully Western. And so making some of these switchovers to think like an Easterner is not easy. And we're swimming in Western mindset, which means that Western culture is like we're just breathing it in. I mean, it's just here, man. It's like we're swimming in it, like jumping in a deep end of a pool. That's the culture, which means we're going to have some powerful tools and some real help to divorce ourselves from that influence and do something different. And so in this instance, I'm going to share a couple of things that have to do with the meal, the Friday evening meal, and the way Easterners approach blessing. They do a lot of laying on of hands, and it's not some ceremonial type of laying on of hands. It's just natural. You're laying your hands on your child, on their head, to bless them, and you're blessing them with a vision, with God's word over them. That is so biblical. That's so Old Testament too. And it's New Testament as well. It's just not something we've picked up on as a Westerner reading the Bible from a Western approach, but it's something we need to start living in, doing, one of the rituals we need. So let me try to put all this together and make some sense out of out of the whole thing. So we're talking about Father Abraham and how he trained his environment to this vision that God had given him. Now, I truly believe Abraham was seriously impressed with a vision of, and it was a spiritual vision that God gave him. Now, I can't speak for him. I'm just working off of clues, but to know what he accomplished in the magnitude of the way he trained the men and women in his life and around his life. And Abraham was like a king. He influenced a realm, and within his realm, it was a different time, it was a different place. So you're talking about probably servants or even slaves. 318 men born in his home. That's servants and slaves. They weren't his children, literal. It just means that someone gave birth to them. It's probably he just had hired servants. He was growing in influence, and he picked up these people over time, is the way I take it anyway, and the way I read it. We know that he had Ishmael as a son through Hagar, who was a slave they picked up in Egypt. Again, you can't judge it as a Westerner in 2021. It's a different time. It's the way it was. It's Abraham's life. But we also know that through his own wife of Sarah, he had Isaac, through which the Jewish nation came out of. Yesterday I made a mistake on my video. I said that Israel came through Ishmael. Obviously, that is not what happened. The nation of Islam came through Ishmael. He was the father of the 12 princes, and so I wanted to make that correction. I just said it wrong. So we know that he had children of his own, but just Abraham, as far as I know, and he may have had the sons of Keturah, maybe something else, but I don't. Let me hold off on that. I haven't restudied that. I may be misspeaking. Anyway, most of the people born in his household were people that were in his jurisdiction of, this was his people, so to speak. It's large sections of land, lots of stuff going on, lots of people running the compound, so to speak. I keep using that terminology. I don't know, plantation. I'm not sure what word says it in terms of the type of thing that Abraham was leading, but it was a big operation. And what I'm saying is that his personality, the weight of his management of his environment, was very, very strict and precise and ritualistic, almost like it had to have been run almost like a military type style of leadership for men to be trained that well, to actually go out and be able to defeat large armies for that day. It wasn't like the army of Egypt or anything, but we're talking about hundreds of men, if not thousands, who were in these city-states that had combined, who took Lot from Sodom, that Abraham took his men out and defeated. That's no small thing at all. And so we're talking about a lot of people, hundreds of people, if you were to include the men, the 318 trained men. Well, that's not talking about the untrained men, which would have been, younger than, 15 or 18. He's not even mentioning them. He's not mentioning the women. So you're talking about a lot of people, probably I'm just guessing here, but I'm thinking upwards of 900 to 1,000 or more people that were living under the management of this man named Abram at the time. So he was running a tight ship, man. He had a vision that was really strong and particular, and he was told that he was going to inherit the world. That's what Romans 4 says. You go read it for yourself. We know from Hebrews 12 that it says he was after a city, the city of God, and he was going into Canaan and was looking for this city. So I'm thinking he's received a spiritual vision that's pretty heavy duty and pretty overwhelming, but it was strong enough for him to begin to run his life accordingly. It's according to the vision that you've got, that it's the power of your vision. It's the power of what you're compelled at as you're looking at this that gives you the power of discipline, because you can only do so much in a day. And when you're really compelled by a powerful vision, in fact, that's what teachers say. They say you don't lack discipline, you lack a compelling vision. Because if you got a compelling vision, it will discipline you in the moment. Now, that's really the key. And so really what our relationship with God is to be doing is, God, give us vision. Help us see. Because if we could see what you have for us, we would discipline ourselves. It would change what we do in the short term, because what we see where this is going in the long term. And so, again, this is a complete package. It's a walking with God type of thing, but really emphasizing where you're going and the destiny, and God is the one that can give you that. And it can be so overwhelmingly beautiful and compelling that it can change your life. And that's part of what's happening in my life. I'm seeing new things about my role as a father and about how I should be getting my significance. And it's different than it used to be. I mean, I'm just telling you, I can remember not a few years ago, I was so caught up in making my youth ministry position work. I felt like I had to. Like if it didn't happen, my life was over. And I feel like I've been suffering from that. But it was a wrong vision. It was not what God had for me. I need to get significance from my Father alone. And then as I'm feeding off of that father-son relationship properly, what He's given me to play that out, to work that out, is my family. And so I think it's a duel for me. Get this significance from God my Father, and let that be channeled into how I love my wife and how I love my children, and how important my role, the privilege and the honor of the role that I have as father, that's primarily what I'm on this earth to do. And right now, for whatever reason, just God moving in my life, I'm doing that. Like I've had something change. Something has changed. I feel like it is right. I feel at peace about it. And I feel like I've moved out of that past Eastern way of thinking into more of from a Western into an Eastern way of living that has to do with family. So that's what I'm trying to just speak about plainly. I hope I'm making sense, but I'll do a better job of it because God's the one that's doing this. So here's my point today. You need to have a good, clear, powerful vision. Okay? Now, let me give you a little bit of help as to what happened last night. Because when I do bring up, okay, it needs to be powerful, it needs to be compelling, it needs to be awesome, well, that can be pretty intimidating because, there's a lot that goes into that. Maybe it is. It's not easy to come up with. So how can you get started? All right, and this is what I hope to encourage you with today. I went home last night, and my intention was, okay, when we have our team meeting tonight, I'm going to propose this. Hey, family, we need to come up with a family vision, okay? And so that's what I did. I popped that question and I said, hey, let's start working this out. What do we want? And how it ended up happening was it boiled down to, because there was a lot of it that we didn't get anywhere with it. But what did come out of it was, okay, I get on my chalkboard. We got this chalkboard in my family room that I get to write stuff up there, and we can change it. And so I wrote up everybody's name, okay? And around the table, we went and asked, okay, let's come up with one adjective. And I had to explain to my kids what an adjective is because they didn't know. But one descriptive word about each one of us that we want to be our word. Okay, so everybody got one word. Now, what came out of it for me was some revelation, really, because my kids, this is what I said. I said, what do you all want from me? Give me one word that will describe what you want out of me that's positive. And the word that they came up with was playful. Isn't that interesting? I was not going there. But now that they said it, I'm like, okay, that I totally need to be playful. That's definitely, that was the Lord. That was God speaking, out of the mouth of babes. Because that's a good word for me. Playful. I need that. And so I was like, great, playful. Well, I put playful next to my name. Okay? And now this is a name, a word that we're going to, through repetition, work into how we talk about one another and how we're blessing one another. And so my kids are going to ask me to play, and they're going to want me to be playful, and they're going to use this to their benefit, of course. And so that'll be fine, because I need to play, and they're going to say, remember, Dad, you said playful, so because you're going to be that, you got to play with me. That's how they're going to use this, which that's fine. That'll be great. I'm gonna be playful. I'm gonna play with them. So where it went from there was Arita's word was patient. That's another great word. That's what my kids came up with. Okay. Then I got Joshua, my firstborn, and I pretty much led the way on this word, because for Joshua, I've been working with him on a lot of things about his attitude and about things about life, and passionate. This boy needs passion. He needs to tap into passion. There's just some things I see in him working against him, his fear about life that he wants. He's a lot like me. And so he's like pushing things out. He doesn't want to care, because if he cares, then he could be disappointed. So he just wants to push out the care of life out here and try to live in this passionless, it doesn't matter, I don't care type of mode. And he doesn't realize what a trick of the enemy is. I do, because that's what the enemy did to me. The enemy tricked me when I was young by making me think, as long as I don't care, I can't be disappointed. And that's just a lie, an illusion. You do care, period. So go ahead and act like you care, because you do. Just face life. And so that was the word for Joshua. I didn't need to go into his business like that. But again, this is open and honest. I'm just trying to be real with you about all things considered. You ought to know your kids on this level. So passion was Joshua's word. Secondly was Caleb. Now Caleb, again, I'm not going to air out Caleb's dirty laundry. I'm just going to tell you that I also led the way with this one. And Caleb's word is humble. I want humility out of you, Caleb. And that's what I bless you with. Humility. You are a humble man. And now humility is a powerful, powerful word, and there's a lot that goes in it. Okay, it's power under control. It's seeing yourself through the eyes of God, and God sees you in some awesome, awesome ways, better than you do, but truer also. And so humility is not just you got to look at yourself badly. It's just it's God's. The way God sees you, seeing yourself the way God sees you. It's humility, but it's also in the power of God, and you don't get the power of God unless you fully died to yourself. So it's full responsibility, taking responsibility for your brokenness, being able to name it, look at it, say, yep, I did that, and Caleb needs that. So humility was Caleb's word. For Abigail, my daughter, fierce was the word. And again, I led the way in that. I kind of have a little bit of I'd like to say I've got a little bit of a gifting in this. So fierce is what we came up with, and I'm going to add on to these in just a minute too. Fierce was for Abigail. Now, Samuel, the first thing we said was Samuel has a big issue with whining. Now, he's the fourth born. And your last born child, if you've got more than 2 kids at least, is really going to have a hard time with this, because it's just that last born child problem that all last born children have. They're like get the leftovers, and they're the kid that doesn't have a little baby that comes after them. And so they don't have to wean themselves off of mama being the baby. All the other kids in front of them have a baby that comes along that trumps them, okay? The lastborn doesn't. And so he's the one that has the hardest time letting go of the baby stage. And so that's definitely been the problem with Samuel. He he's gotten into whine mode, and that's like almost his personality to a degree. So he can't do anything. He's a baby, and he wants to hang on to that mentality. So the first thing we said was, what's the opposite of whiner? Because that's the word we want. And we all, we're talking about this. And so we came up with just warrior for Samuel. Just warrior. That's the word. Because a warrior is not a whiner. They're a warrior. The defining characteristic of a warrior is discipline. Okay? And so that's a stage in a man's development that you go through, the warrior stage. And that is that stage where you learn to do what you got to do. It doesn't matter what you feel. It matters what you're going to do. So that for Samuel's perfect. Now, let me add to this, because I talked about yesterday that I'm the one that named my children. And so I already had a sense of what God wanted to do in their lives that came with their name. So with Joshua was named literally from the Joshua in Scripture. So we're talking about a political / warrior type leader. Okay, with Joshua, it's more of a poet warrior. Okay, comes from that line of able to speak, able to articulate, deep thinker type. More like I'm more of that type of warrior poet type warrior. But here's what I know about your children and my children. They will be warriors. They're not going to make it where this is going. In fact, every single one of us will be warriors at a base level, at a foundational level. If you're not developing your warrior ethos, I'm afraid you're not going to make it. Because whatever else you are in Christ, and whatever other, additional part of who you are that God says you are, you will be a warrior. If you're going to go anywhere in this future, you will be a warrior. So all 4 of my children have this warrior ethos that came with their name. Joshua had that. So I'm adding on to my picture of him passionate. Okay, so passionate warrior is how I see Joshua. And I've got to get that in my lingo and how I speak to him, how I'm blessing him, laying hands on him and saying it often and calling it out of him. See, he needs that from Father more than anything. The glory of the children is their father. And this is mom and dad too. Remember, the Father's Spirit is really the father and mother coming together and operating in this way. So they need this from their mom and dad. So there's Joshua. Caleb was literally Caleb the warrior. Joshua is also Joshua David, so King David as well as Joshua of the Old Testament. Caleb was Caleb, that's another warrior. Him and Joshua came through together. They were very 1-2 punch as far as the Lord was concerned. Caleb went after the giants. He wanted a certain mountain. You got to study Caleb's life if you don't know about it. Old Testament Caleb. He's a man of a different spirit. And I see these qualities in Caleb. And he's also Caleb Andrew. Andrew was the one of the disciples who took everybody to Jesus. If you look at Andrew's life, he's the one that brought all the other disciples to Jesus. That was a key characteristic in Andrew's life that you might not know about in the Scripture. I see these things in Caleb's life, okay? These are real things. I see the qualities of the name God gave them already in them, okay? So I've got that as a base level for how I see them and what I'm calling out of them. But on addition to that, now this word humble, I'm calling that humility out of Caleb, and I'm blessing him with it now, okay? Abigail came from 2 people. Abigail, which was one of King David's wives, she was a strong woman, wise woman, knew what was going on. When David, you have to study that scenario in David's life when he met Abigail. Remember, Abigail was married to another man when they met, and her husband died because he was an idiot. And she was not. She was wise. She has something, man, some strength there. So we're talking about a strong woman. That was the first picture that came with Abigail's name. The second one was Abigail Adams. Okay, John Adams, the second president of the United States, wife. fierce woman, wise woman, a woman born before her time. She was a power-packed, intellectual, serious, heavyweight of a person, okay? Now, those are the two women I had in mind when I named Abigail, Abigail, all right? And so I've got that as a base level for her. What I'm calling out of her now is that fierceness, and it's a fierceness that has focus, okay? So it's a certain time of fierceness. Now, again, for me, this is coming in full picture, and I know what I'm blessing when I'm blessing them, and I know what I'm blessing them about. And for me, it's helpful because I can see it coming forth out of them. I know what I'm calling forth, okay? Fourthly is Samuel. Samuel's name comes from happy hearer because he's Samuel Asher Davis Thompson. Samuel Asher are two Old Testament names that are really strong. It's literally after the Samuel the prophet. He's the first one. Asher was one of the sons of Jacob, which is happy. Asher means happy. Samuel means hearer. God hears. Okay, so I know this is a big deal in Samuel's life. What Samuel needs right now more than anything is develop that warrior edge to his life, along with the happy hearer. So see how I've got each one of my kids has a picture, and with my wife, which is maybe a separate thing, but she does. She needs that gentle patience. And so each one of us, we're calling out the God part of who we are within our family. And we're the ones doing it for one another. We are one another's allies because, see, we're on a family team. We have a mission. We've been brought together. And see, I've just assembled and named my team and the players. See, that it's exciting to me because I'm literally calling it up out of them so that we're going to go do awesome things together. Because these are the teammates God has given me to do this with. And see, so I'm just along the ride. I'm along for the ride in terms of, God, you're showing me these things, and I agree. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We will do these things. Yes, we will do these things consistently, habitually, ritualistically. I'm going to lay my hands on and call forth these adjectives. And see, I wasn't the only one that did this. My family took part in it. Now, this has just started. This is something that I will continue to add to as God adds to it, and let it be all that it can be. But you need a vision that moves you. You need a vision that excites you. You need a vision that compels you. It needs to really be what you really want, you really desire in your heart, okay? It needs to have some roots in it. And God will give it to you if you'll ask Him. And just seek Him for it, and don't stop until He does. Don't stop. But you can start as simply and easily as I have done with my family already. Does that make sense? Now, the last thing I want to share real quick is be careful with this, because some of you are not wired the way that I am. My personality is I am not an overbearing person. I am not a controlling, I want a leadership role type of a guy. Okay, I'm totally the opposite of it. Now, I do have control issues, but it's very different than most of people who deal with control issues, and I'm not going to get into what those differences are. I'm thoroughly broken. Don't worry about that. I just don't want to lead, I don't want to be in charge. That seems like a lot of work and strain, and management is not my thing. I don't want to manage anybody, anywhere, okay? But everybody's not like that. So I just want to say, be careful when you're going to call out your children's lives. The Bible says to train them up in the way that they should go, not in the way you want them to go. You're not a micromanager, and you're not God. So don't be that. Don't feel like I'm giving you liberty to do that to your kids, okay? It's a big deal for me to step into the vision God has given my kids and to walk with it and to do it consistently. But in other words, I'm trying to say some of you want to dictate too much what your children do and what they become. Now, the generals, the value structure, the characteristics of Christ, yeah, those are non-negotiables, and you can definitely stand and say, yes, God will do these. But as far as what they grow up and do in life, don't decide that for them as a parent. Do not do that, because you might not know. And what you want them to do might be wrong. It might be some leftover business that you've got in your own life that you're trying to live through. You're trying to get through your kids. That's wrong. Do not do that. No, 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 no. Raise them up and train them up in the way that they should go. So God has, in your children, God has placed a design. You want to be looking for it and seeing what God's put there, but let them go, and be what they're going to grow up and be. I just wanted to put that in there as a little help. And I know this video is long, but I think this is something that's necessary. Just take your time with it. If you can't watch it all at once, pick it back up later. But last thing is about your marriage. Your marriage needs to be the same way. And here's a trick. Everybody loves movies in our day and time. Everybody loves, the rom-com movies, the relationship movies where, man, these people, they just got the relationship I want. Use that to your advantage. Get into some of the movies that you really love where couples are involved and get a picture and describe what you would like with your husband or wife. Make that your vision for your marriage and do the same thing with your marriage, because you can begin to work towards it. If you can see it and you're compelled by it and it's beautiful and you really want it, you can take steps now toward that in prayer, in your flight plan. You can have a flight plan in your marriage, a destination. I want to land here, and I'm on my way there. And remember, on a flight plan, I didn't mention this yesterday, but on a flight plan, a flight is off course. 90% of the flight is off course. That can give you hope. But the point is that you've got such a good destiny, it's so clear and precise that you can be off as long as you know how to recorrect. And listen, you're going to be off. You will be off. It's not going to go the way you want it to go, but if you've got a clear vision and you've got a faith in God who's working this all out himself, he can get you back on course. Now, you're going to go right off, but you come back. See, you're hugging this line. You go off this way and off that way, but you're hugging this line. So that is a truth. You can be off 90% of the time and still get where you're going. Now, that's the grace of God, the power of God, the beauty of God. We're ultimately trusting in him. So make sure you trust in him ultimately, okay? Don't trust in your own ability to come up with a vision and do this, because you can't. It's impossible. But with the grace of God, all things are possible. And these are just some good, solid tidbits along the way. So hope that was encouraging. Hope it was helpful. I know it's helping me, man. It's really working in my home, and I'm enjoying it. We're enjoying this as it works. So my prayer for you is that it's doing the same. Remember, God is going to change the world one family at a time. So let your family be one of those. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.